Greetings and welcome to In the Trees, the cannabis, gardening, and lifestyle podcast highlighting methods, products, growers, and breeders from Maine, the East Coast, and beyond. I'm your host, Mr. Roots, and I'm stoked to deliver you the lowdown on all things cannabis, presented not just for the well-vetted OGs in the garden, but for those buying a seed pack to grow their very first garden. This show is especially for those buying their very first cannabis to try. If you are listening in your car, sit back, relax, and strap on your seatbelt. And if you are listening in the garden, turn us up so you can hear us over the fans. Sending out good vibes from the rock-bound coast of Maine, we are In the Trees. Welcome to episode 7 of In the Trees podcast. This one is lit as Reed and Caitlin of Hiker Trash Cannabis Company are joining us today. And if that wasn't enough, first, we have something that will bring some flavor for your ears. In the Trees podcast is proudly sponsored by the Maine Craft Cannabis Association. The MCCA is a diverse group of businesses and activists committed to supporting an authentic craft cannabis industry in Maine. Their motto, People, Place, and Plant, represents their focus on fighting for craft Maine-grown businesses through their legislative work in Augusta. The MCCA's social activism supports all Mainers' legal protected access to the plant. Check them out on Facebook and Instagram by searching for Maine Craft Cannabis Association, and please show your support to this extremely valuable organization.
They say experience teacheth wisdom.
It's time for a Stoney Story. This is the part of the show where you, the listener, gets to enjoy a story told to you by one of the Stoney guests here on the show. Stoney Stories are recorded here in the Alight Studio after a feature we call Spontaneous Combustion, where guests of the show get irie and give their thoughts on some cannabis, extract, or other product. The effects from those sessions are the catalyst for the stories you will be hearing. Oh, this one is a good one. Be careful if you're sipping any liquids. You might just spray some right out your nose.
So it was my birthday, and I remember my parents took me out to dinner to Beale Street Barbecue down in Bath, and I always got like my favorite meal that I ever got from there,
Which is
the pulled pork on jalapeno cornbread. And so like my parents took me out down there to dinner, and they're like, "Oh, happy birthday! Like, be safe tonight," because they let me go out on the town. My buddy lived right across the street, basically, from Beale Street Barbecue down in Bath. And so when I left Beale Street Barbecue, I just walked over to his house. And I walked up into his apartment, and like he knew I was coming over because it was my birthday, and we're like, "We're gonna do something sick because it's my birthday." And so like I walk up into his apartment not knowing like what to expect. And I walk in, and there's like 4 or 5 people, and there's one person I don't really recognize. And I was just like, oh, didn't think much of it. There's always random people around. And we sit down, and they're like, "Oh, what's up tonight?" And I was like, "I don't know, it's my birthday, you guys, you know that, what's going on?" They're like, "I don't know, dude, we're gonna do something." And like they all have big smiles on their face, and the dude that I didn't really know out of nowhere busts out a backpack and tosses out this huge bag of mushrooms. It must have been 3 or 4 pounds of mushrooms. It was the biggest bag of mushrooms at that point in time I'd ever seen in my life. And I was just like, holy shit, I've never eaten mushrooms. They're like, yeah, we're eating mushrooms tonight. And I was like, yeah, I guess we are. Like, this was in town Bath, though. So, like, it wasn't a good place to trip. It was across the street from the Bath Police Department, literally. I was like, well, we're going to go out somewhere else. So we cruised out to Woolwich area, and we go to a buddy's house of mine, and we all eat the mushrooms out there. And I literally I don't even know what I was thinking. I didn't even ask what these did to me. I wasn't even, like, curious. I was just like, yeah, I'm eating mushrooms. And, like, I didn't even, like, cross my mind, like, you're going to be tripping. But, like, I just ate mushrooms and was tripping.
I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody.
At this point in time, there was, like, a dozen of us at my buddy's house. All of us all tripping at his house. There was 2 sober people there, you know, making sure that people weren't, like, driving cars and getting crazy. So we had a couple trip sitters. It wasn't that, like, we were being safe to a point. But, like, it came to, like, it was like 2 in the morning and people had to get back to Bath. And there was only 1 car. And there was, like I said, 12 of us. And so we're all piling into this car. And I was like, nope, I'm not even going to go to town.
What kind of car?
I think it was, like, it must have been a Buick because the inside of it looked like a spaceship because it was lit up and huge.
Nice.
But, like,
hell yeah. A teenage car.
Yeah. Yeah, it was definitely a teenage car. The driver was sober, but, like, I was like, I'm not going to town. I'm going to stay here. And then I backed out of staying there, and now all the seats in the car were taken. And my buddy was like, well, if you're going back to town, I'm going back to town too. And, like, they're like, well, the only spot left in this car is in the trunk.
Let me ride. Baby, here it goes.
I'm tripping balls, and I'm like, yeah, whatever. And my buddy's like, yep, whatever. So we both get in the trunk of this car, and we're going through Woolwich into Bath. And, like, at some point in time, me and my buddy get really confused as to why we're in the trunk of a car. He starts freaking out, saying there's bugs crawling on him. I'm just, like, getting uncomfortable at this point because my friend's telling me there's bugs crawling on him. And so I pulled up the glow-in-the-dark rape latch as we're going 45 miles an hour down the road. And I pull the trunk latch, dude, and we're driving, dude, and I sit up. And, like, the driver slams on his brakes because we pulled the latch. I get tossed into the trunk. My buddy gets tossed in the trunk, and we're on the side of the road. And, like, once the car stops, I get up and I sit back up and, like, step out of the trunk. And my buddy gets out of the trunk, and we start looking around, and we realize we're right behind Cumberland Farms. It's lit up like a Christmas tree. Like, people could see this. We're right there behind Cummies, and so the driver gets out and he's yelling at us. He's like, get back in the trunk, dude. Like, what are you guys doing?
So the driver's yelling, get in the trunk.
Yeah, at this point, we're walking around in the road, basically, and, like, he's got 6 other kids in the car, in the front of the car, and, like, he's trying to get me and my friend back in the trunk of this car, and we're like, why are we in the trunk? And he's like, we get in the trunk. And, like, so we get back in this trunk, and he shoves us in the trunk, and we make it into Bath, dude, and he drops us off at my buddy's house. I remember, like, just getting out of the trunk, like, so happy, dude. It was like, we ran down to my buddy's house, get into his house, and from there, it just, like, we had a wild-ass night there.
Wow. Crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. That was my friend and respected undisturbed living soil grower, Grape Grows, with his riot of a Stoney Story. Grape Grows and In the Trees podcast both want to send some love to Hazy Hill Farm, whose GMO sift rosin was the catalyst for this hilarious story. Check out episode 2 to hear Grape give a review of the GMO rosin that set this off. You can find Hazy Hill Farms products at fine storefronts like Stone Coast Cannabis in Brunswick and Sensimilla 207 in Lewiston. Don't forget to give Hazy Hill Farm and Grape Grows a follow on Instagram. And if you see products in a storefront or dispensary by either of these quality growers, rest assured you're getting some of the best of Maine cannabis. The next time you're on Weed Maps, type in All Kind and give them a follow. All Kind is a medical caregiver storefront in downtown Portland, Maine, specializing in finely crafted infused Belgian chocolate and other tasty cannabis edibles and products. We are proudly supported by All Kind and personally love their high-quality products. Check them out at allkind.buzz on Instagram or go to their website allkind.buzz to check out their great selection. Listeners of the show receive a 10% discount by mentioning In the Trees podcast to your bud tender at All Kind.
I mean, it's because we love what we do, you know?
Exactly. It's not work. I mean, when we're working, we're having fun. We love what we do. And I think that's the key to living a good life.
Being an avid adventurer, I've spent countless days and weeks on wilderness trips, hitchhiking across country, or living in a canyon in New Mexico for a whole winter. There have been multiple times in my life when I lived for months outdoors. These times taught me how simple life can be when you boil it down to what is needed instead of all the many wants we can have. They also have given me a deep appreciation for other travelers who have lived in similar ways. For many of us, you can tell by a certain look in the eyes, a feral gaze. Start talking about seeing the sunset from an alpine peak or a trip you took away from this busy world, and watch the eyes start to smile with a longing to be out there. So, when I noticed the Maine-based cannabis brand, Hiker Trash, on Instagram, I had no idea who the owners were, but I immediately wanted to connect with whoever it was that would pay homage to their traveling lifestyle by being awesome enough to call their cannabis brand by that name. For those listeners that are unfamiliar with the terminology, Hiker Trash is a term of endearment. Reed and Caitlin are the owners of Hiker Trash, based out of the Bethel, Maine area, close to the mountains that they love so much. I reached out to set up a studio session and they were very personable. They were happy to make the drive to the coast and talk about hiking, hash, and their Hiker Trash brand. They also showed up to the studio with great vibes and amazing samples of their top-shelf Hiker Trash hash rosin that is making a name for itself all over New England. They gifted the In the Trees podcast Stash Box a beautiful trifecta of hash rosin flavors for future guests of the show to try. Their full-spectrum garlic butter, green Durban, and my personal favorite, the Point Break hash rosin from an in-house Surfer Seeds Pheno selection they made, is so flavorful and stony. I'm sure there will be fantastic Stoney stories coming from sessions off these flavors. Reed and Caitlin brought along a killer Hefe glass rig sitting on a stunning Skunkwood dab board, making their check-in on some flavors easy and professional. If you haven't heard Hiker Trash's Stoney Story on episode 6 about hiking the Appalachian Trail, it's one you don't want to miss, so make sure you give it a listen. Personally, I'm looking forward to connecting with this couple again in the future, and the traveler in me wished we could have packed up our gear and took off on a multi-day trip into the mountains to bag some peaks, get irie on some killer hash, and simply live more of that Hiker Trash lifestyle. Maybe someday.
I think I had maybe $750 like a month from working on the mountain, and it was summertime and the mountain was closed, and a couple different buddies were starting new kind of grow houses.
This is around Bethel, this Sunday River Ski Resort?
Mount Abram.
Oh, Abram.
Yeah.
Love Abram.
Yeah, it was awesome to work there. Just ride a snowmobile all day. It was great. Yeah, so I was just working around there, just bumming it up. A couple buddies had different cannabis opportunities, and I was like, it's always been a part of my life. I've risked a lot for it growing up down south, just to use it. And so me and Cypress, my other buddy, we jumped at the opportunity to work for these guys and work with them. And we learned a lot through failure most of the time. And we learned really quickly and just paid attention, asked questions. Well, one guy in particular that really knew what he was talking about.
He was kind of like a consultant.
Yeah, he was a best friend of another one who he had a full-time job. And so he was kind of the financial backer at the time. And then this other guy was the kind of consultant. And then we kind of ran the house. And so we learned a lot. And as that operation expanded, we had a lot of personnel issues. And so we ended up splitting ways. And that was when we kind of started Hiker Trash. We didn't put a brand together yet or anything, but yeah, we started in a 2x3 tent. It was like maybe 4 feet tall, and that was our veg and our flower as we picked our different keepers and just grew enough and kind of got used to things. And really we were working out our living situation, personal situation, because when everything fell apart, everything kind of was trying to kind of get taken out from under us. And so it was really tough to just find a place to stay and grow and continue something of a business. But really we both ended up just getting full-time jobs and did all 3 things at once, worked our way up. We then actually from there went into an apartment where we grew, and we got caught once, but then we just kind of added another carbon filter and we were good to go.
Right. But you were state legal with your medical licensure.
Yeah. It was just the leasing company was, it was a clause that was how they wanted to be represented. And so apparently I think someone must have said that they smelled something and they didn't want to be represented that way.
Right, because you guys are carbon filter killers, I could tell.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a weird line, but it was a big driving factor to purchase our own property, which is where we are now. And that's when we rented out in Bethel and found our property in the area. And at the rental house is when we really started the brand. We started the page and really got into things. And we popped 25 packs of different seeds. A lot of them were surfer, some cap, some local, just a lot of stuff that I had just saved up over the past year or so of just every little chance I could. I was buying seeds, and I think it became a little bit of a problem at a certain point.
Well,
it's paid off now.
it sure has.
You know, you had to reel him in a little bit, Caitlin.
I did.
Yeah, she had to put the brakes on.
We do a pretty good job of like checking each other
Right.
on if we're going too far on something.
Yeah, that can be a big part of an overhead cost is buying seeds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
But so then we picked our keepers, and now we purchased our property and kind of in a temporary space for a while we had a lot of repairs to do on the property when we first moved in. And so we got those situated, and then now we're able to start our final build out of our facilities with the hash lab and a big veg and full LED flower rooms with a dry room. I mean, kind of the dream of the past few years.
Oh, sweet. It's starting to come to fruition, huh?
Starting to really
It
come
is.
to fruition.
It's all starting to culminate.
Yeah.
So,
Well, congratulations, you guys, because
Thank
you
you.
said you just got your house 6 months ago.
yep, back in November.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. Big move and putting down roots here in the great state of Maine. Yep. Near a couple really nice ski resorts.
Yeah,
yeah.
it was a great treat to be able to bring it back to the roots, especially with Hiker Trash, because it's always going to be who I am. And it's really nice to be where I am too.
Yeah, for sure. Right there near those mountains.
Oh yeah, we're 15 minutes from the AT.
Oh, perfect.
Well, I mean, we're the type of people that, 9 times out of 10, we're outside for the majority of the day. So we would never last in like a city area or anything.
Right.
No, living in the apartment almost was...
Oh, man.
That was painful. A little claustrophobic.
Yeah.
But you guys had the best smelling place in the complex?
Oh, we sure did.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Hiker Trash Cannabis Company. There may be some people that don't know what Hiker Trash is.
Yes.
We definitely came across that,
We get that
when
a
we
lot.
first, developed the logo and the name and, merchandise. We've definitely had that question before. I think once we, kind of explain to people what it is, they start to get it. I mean, one person, when we told them about it, was like, well, you have the word trash in your name. How is that a good thing?
It goes against all previous marketing knowledge. And
Right.
So,
but really, Hiker Trash is just it's a community within the hiking world. I love Google's way of
Oh,
putting
nice.
it.
You pulled it up.
Yeah. That's what I usually do, is just kind of screenshot this and send it to people.
Awesome.
But it says, to all who are part of the long-distance hiking community, the term hiker trash is affectionately used to describe a hiker or group of hikers who have sunk down to a lower standard of living. It says that affectionately.
So a lower standard of living?
yeah.
Meaning they're sleeping outside every night.
Right.
And-
Meaning we live off of the bare minimum.
Yeah. That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
That's cleansing.
And it really is. It's the minimalist ideals, and to pick up everything that you need on your back and walk and set down anywhere. It's kind of the traveling gypsy kind of mentality. And once you enter that, you really understand what's important and what you need and what you don't need, and the difference between wants and needs.
You're living out in the wilderness. You just gotta...
You just got to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
So you started growing your own produce, and I'm assuming you were selling flour back then?
Mhm.
Do you sell flour still?
Right now, we're not, as we find which strains wash well. Because we're working with such a small temporary space, it's hard for us to do both at the same time. So we're doing kind of mixed runs on some things that we know wash well to be able to put out some product. We have a strain called Balloonicorn that it's our first run with it. So it's a big test wash for us. And we're going to see.
Kind of like an R&D, if you will.
Yeah, so we're really geared for hash right now, especially with our light setup. We're running a lot of CMH lights and about 3/4 LED, and then we'll have some CMH lights in there for resin production.
So do you want to impart anything on the community about why CMH?
For us, we've played around with a lot of different spectrums. We've done the HPS, the plasma, LED, CMH, and we're settling on an LED and CMH room. We did a full room of just CMH at one point, and it was great. This was before they came out with the big double-ended 1,000-watt CMHs. But from a flower standpoint, it just didn't produce a well-structured nug. It didn't have that yield to it. The resin production was off the charts.
Mm-hmm.
And
Specifically with ceramic metal halides?
Yes.
Over a high-pressure sodium?
Over everything else. I've never done a full room of plasma. But we had a plasma in a room with some high-pressure sodiums. It wasn't anywhere near the resin production that the CMH can do, or that we have noticed with the CMH. And so we then started kind of testing, all right, what's going to boost that yield? And so we played with HPS and CMH, and it does it, but they just produce so much heat and so much, electricity, and it's just a lot. And so then just this past wave, we were actually able to play with the nice multi-$1,000 LEDs that we've been looking at. And we worked a couple of those in, and that's where we really got that good structure that we're looking for with the yield and the combination of the CMH the resin production.
Right.
Kind of everything that we're looking for in our plants, we saw with that combination.
Because you're specifically focusing on hash. Yeah. Any particular brand of light that you like a lot?
Think Grow LEDs. We honestly kind of just stumbled on it through Instagram. Miami Mango, he's pretty well known on the Instagram front and pretty good at pushing different products. And I haven't tried all of the ones that he pushes, but the ones that I have tried have been pretty good. You know, they definitely meet and usually exceed expectation.
You talked about growing 90% organic.
Yeah, I mean, we try to do as much organic stuff as we can as far as amendments and stuff like that. And then we feed really light on our synthetic salts because we run mills and in cocoa, we run salt.
With a drip?
Nope, hand water.
Hand water, all right. Hey, respect.
Yep, yeah, hopefully we're going to work in a drip system so that we can take a vacation every now and then.
Right, wouldn't that be nice?
But it's not going to be
what
our
is
go-to.
that?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Vacation?
But
what about blue mats? What do you think about blue mats with the cocoa?
I have never experienced or tried them at all, but I'm definitely going to play around with them for outdoor soil. Cocoa, I don't know. That's what we ran at the Orrington house. That's what I'm really familiar with. We've played with soil a little bit here and there, but it's just, I have more of an eye for the cocoa and I just kind of understand it a little bit more. And so I can see the dry down times a little easier and just kind of can connect the dots.
We have talked about doing soil between us and maybe friends that we have. You know, it's something that I feel like takes time to get right. And, you know, we're just, like he said, we're so familiar with what we've been using that we're just going to stick with that while we build our business. And then, you know, we'll definitely get into
we've got a great kind of general recipe that we can tweak specifically for each strain. And we're not going to mess with that right now.
Right. From your standpoint, especially in today's market, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. So I'm really curious to see because I have a lot of respect for the people who do the no-till and the completely organic and everything. And I did go to school for some environmental science and like I understand it, but I've never put it into practice. But every company that I've tried that does it well and clean it's really tasty medicine. I'm really curious how it washes.
Right. I'd be curious about that too.
That's kind of, I always love playing that game. Like,
well, I mean, that's the thing, you know, that we were saying earlier is that when we wash something, it's for the first time. So we're just kind of figuring out how it's going to work and how it's going to play. So, I mean, we love to do, you know, little R&D stuff like that.
Yeah, luckily we're done with first time washes for a while.
Yeah.
Everything else we know is going to wash well. We've got a couple of seedlings coming up from Crystal Rose Seed Co. And he's a hash guy, and I know.
Yeah, so we're interested to see how those.
We know they're going to wash well.
When you were talking earlier about selecting strains, you're selecting female plants. So what are you looking for when you're selecting a good female cultivar in regards to hash?
A lot of it's a balance between a good yield and a small nug. Lowers and smaller buds really do lend themselves well to washes. Now, there's always a few tricks of the trade for the bigger nugs that you can do. What we really look for as a two-person team that's really small and we're trying to do everything ourselves, we look for ease in the trimming and pruning department. That's really what we're seeking out. We pick our certain packs and what we're going to pop based on the lineage and what we know is going to have potential high yields in the hash department. And then from there, we pick for ease of our day-to-day. So like we just cut one out of our lineup just because it was super, super leafy and it didn't wash great. I mean, after a certain point, all the leaf material, it just turns everything green, and it's a pain to prune and trim and everything. And all that little bit of time eats up and adds up to us being able to do something bigger and more beneficial. So we really look for that. Personally, we pick what we're going to pop as far as seeds for hash, and then we choose our females based on structure and obviously terpene profiles and stuff like that. If we have multiple phenos, then we'll just decide which one is more appealing to us. And a few buddies of ours will try out different ones, and we'll get some feedback on stuff before we really release things. And just kind of personal preference, really. It'll link with some people and it won't link with others. Some people aren't going to like what we like, and that's life.
Well, that's like with the cognac. Didn't we just cut one and keep the other?
Yeah, we had 2 phenos of cognac bred by Boston farmers. And so we had one that was just super, super hairy, and then one that's just rock hard and frosty. And for us, we went with the rock hard frosty one.
Right. Yeah, that's the bud structure you're looking for resin production.
We also a lot of times pick for the flowering duration. We go for quick flowering strains.
Especially in the outdoor season, because it is so gosh darn short.
Yeah, it's really short for us up on the mountain. And
I mean, there are times even right now where it gets down to like, I don't know, is it 40?
We had a frost warning like a week and a half ago.
Yeah, like 30, 40 degrees at night. I mean, even like last night, I think it was still like 40 degrees outside.
So do you put up hoop houses for that, or?
We haven't done anything. We don't have anything outside yet this year.
Okay.
We just wrapped up our fence. With the new property, there's just so many legal compliance things that we had to get up first. This week we're putting plants out.
Yeah, nice. Plenty of time. Knee high by July, they say, right?
Yep.
Well, it's so funny too, being in this business. I mean, you really play a jack of all trades.
Oh, yeah.
And I can now say that I've built an outdoor fence.
Awesome.
Never did that before.
Right.
I feel pretty good about it.
You'd be a carpenter before you know it.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't.
Building cabinets.
I wouldn't go that far, but
you're exactly right about that. Yeah.
You definitely have to be your own electrician and plumber to a certain degree. I mean,
yeah, those are good skills to know when they apply to the cannabis gardening. Yeah.
Oh, 100%.
yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any advice for partners or couples that are a team in the cannabis community? That's an interesting partnership when you
do everything together.
Together.
I mean, honestly, especially with COVID, I mean, I didn't really see anybody's face other than his for like 3 months, I think. And we made it through it. No, I'm really proud of that.
Yeah, I think the key is if you have downtime in this industry, just kind of letting each other do whatever you want to do. Don't force it. Just go with the flow, and silence is okay. You don't have to talk all the time. You don't have to agree on everything. I think a lot of it is just having fun. You got to have fun with it.
Yeah.
We tease each other. We poke each other. And
Well, I mean, you can't be so serious,
yeah.
I mean,
You gotta have fun.
and it's hard sometimes because, a lot of the stuff that we're dealing with on a daily basis is very serious stuff, like legal stuff, accounting stuff. I mean, things that we've never, dealt with before. And it's just, I mean, it's very serious and stressful. You just gotta kind of make time to laugh at, the small things.
Right. Good advice.
Just gotta learn to let things go a little bit.
Communication and honesty. Just even if something happens, especially in the garden. I mean, if I make a mistake or something happens, like we need to let the other one know. We can't try and cover it up or
They don't get embarrassed, because he made a mistake. I mean, because it's gonna happen. We're only human. That's pretty much it. I mean, just have an open line of communication and
Definitely. Where can people find your hash here in Maine?
We are kind of bouncing around all over the place right now as we're small, but soon we're going to try and be in a dispensary in a lot of big locations. The Portland area. We've been at Kind Guy, Main Relief down in Biddeford. We're hoping to get into a few in Portland, Auburn, and Bangor. Up in the Dixfield area, Farm Boys carries a lot of our stuff. And, till we get the final room built out and stuff and have more product available, we do a lot directly.
Yeah.
We like to come out and meet you and kind of represent.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, we're, relatively busy most of the time, but where we're such a small craft cannabis company, we like to, still go out and connect with people and,
create that relationship
Yeah.
with them.
Yeah.
exactly.
Even if it is just for one time. And
That's what I do. Yeah. Same way. Yeah. Not in any stores right now. I don't find it to be a necessity right now.
No, I mean, it's not, I mean, that's the thing. We're so small that we could just continue to, wholesale things, but not like to dispensaries. I mean, to, people that we know.
Right.
And I mean, we don't have to do that, but
yeah, I think a lot of why we're drawn towards the dispensary and storefront route is to be able to tap into all the different communities that can't come out and aren't on Instagram and all the different cases.
because that's really how like a lot of people find us.
Yeah, I mean,
It's on
Instagram is wonderful, but it's an app on your phone
Yeah.
at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So
Well, it's funny. The other day when I came home from work, we had just gotten some paperwork in the mail, something like that. And, I get home and he's like, yeah, I got about 5 or 6 different conversations to tell you about while you were gone. Okay, let's sit down. We decompress. We'll get into this.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah.
And this was one of them.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Right, right.
Yeah, it was yesterday when I got home
So
from
we
work.
may be going to do a podcast.
Yeah.
So do you think time management is a big piece in operating a viable cannabis operation?
150%.
And here's a secret. You got no free time. Mm-hmm. You're never going to have
So true.
the time. You need to make the time. If you want to have a day off, you need to make the time to have a day off.
Well, it's so funny, because there are so many projects to be done, or, plants that need to be fed or pruned or, what have you, that it's so easy to get in the rhythm of just doing stuff every day, because every day there is stuff that can be done. And it's, it's very important to, you try to take a day for yourself, and I feel like it's very hard to do sometimes, but
Especially if you really do, everything has a lot to do. And when we do our own processing, we do everything in-house, we do processing for other companies. You really got to be a special kind of crazy. And that's kind of what blows my mind too, is we just love what we do. And it's fun for us. I wouldn't say it's easy, but we enjoy it. And we're so close to our own product that it's really nice to put out a new one and have all the reviews come back and everyone loves it and this and that. And it's just like, especially as a new company and people are just now hearing of us, and it's really humbling and nice to know that we're doing something right and that the love is coming through, especially with my cooking background, because that's what everybody says, you got to put a little sprinkle of love in there or whatever when you're cooking. And it really does come through in all aspects of a lot of artistic things, as cooking and music and cannabis and all the things you do.
Last year, you guys were getting out and doing a hike a month, and that was a balance for you, or?
We do kind of day adventures when we can now, and we like to do one kind of every other week. We'll just get out, we'll go for a little day hike or walk with the dog. And
yeah, I mean, a lot of times it's nothing crazy, like we're not going on like a 5-mile hike or more or anything, but I mean, it's just about, just getting out there and being outside. I mean, I feel like just being, in the woods and, in nature and everything, it's just very calming.
Very therapeutic.
Yeah. And I mean, we'll sit out there, hike around, maybe smoke a few joints and go back home.
So is there any love you want to give to the community? Anybody in particular? Any shout outs you want to give? Anything like that?
Oh God, everybody. Everyone who's ever taken a risk on us, because we are new and a lot of it is a risk. We're starting to gain a name for ourselves now, and it's great, but there were definitely a few people that took a risk on us before anyone knew of us at all. And Doc at Humble Family Farms, he took a huge risk on us for sponsoring the Moda Cup last summer.
That was a big deal for us.
That was a big risk for him.
And it was really cool for us to be able to meet, some more people in the industry because, we were still, even smaller than we are now.
Yeah, that was the first thing.
And we didn't really know anybody. So that was a really great opportunity for us. And we're very thankful to them over there.
And it was a great space to have it was a cannabis competition, a cup, but to have that environment, it really brought everyone together. And we all tried everyone's entries and we all take our votes. And it became a community competition instead of, the way competitions and cups can be, and there's always going to be someone who's complaining of the way it was organized or the unfairness of this or whatever. But
you can't make everybody happy.
To bring all the competitors together and create them as a good, well-fit community, I think that was...
It was just a really great thing to be a part of and see...
Cool.
It was really cool.
I'm gonna have to go check out the Moda Cup.
Yeah, for sure.
In the Trees podcast, listeners, check out the Moda Cup here in Maine. Very cool. Well, Hiker Trash Cannabis Company, Reed and Caitlin, I want to thank you guys so much for coming on the show. You guys are awesome. And
thank you for having us.
We are so honored to be here.
In the Trees podcast, listeners, don't forget to follow Hiker Trash Cannabis Company on Instagram, as well as their backup account, hikertrash.hash. This couple's done a great job of growing their cannabis brand from humble beginnings to a nice level of success, while also staying down to earth and true to their lifestyle. Maine growers, if you're looking for industry-respected professionals for quality washing and squishing for your flowers, check in with Hiker Trash Cannabis Company for those services. Word was out long before this episode, but if you didn't know, Hiker Trash Hash is all that in a dub sack. Where the papers at? In the Trees podcast is proudly supported by Farley's Cannabis Farm, the family-run storefront of not only caregivers but patients who strongly support local small businesses and sustainable communities. Farley's Cannabis Farm is a patient-centered, handicap-accessible storefront ready to answer your questions about buying the Maine cannabis that's right for you. Specializing in a full spectrum of products, including Maine-grown flower, in-house CBD products, edibles, and concentrates, they are fully dedicated to providing medical patients the best locally sourced products for their needs. So the next time you're on Route 1 looking for the fine herb, stop by 127 Main Street in Woolwich to say hi and tell them Roots from In the Trees podcast sent you. If you're at home, head on over to farleyscannabisfarm.com, browse their menu on Weed Maps, and give them a follow on Instagram at FCF420. We really think you'll love Farley's Cannabis Farm. What a great episode this was. It's a favorite of mine so far. I want to give a special shout out to In the Trees podcast's own audio file and crucial member of production, Hash Mitten, who made the music for today's show. Hash Mitten has played an integral role in making this show sound as good as it does and came up with the amazing idea to DJ each show, requesting that I ask each guest what type of music they like so he can build a unique sound specific to each guest and approach the scoring through that lens. Massive respect, Mitten. Check him out on Instagram at @_mitten and show him some In the Trees love by giving him a follow. Hail him up. Please visit our website, inthetreespodcast.com, for bonus audio and video content, including more Stoney Stories, our well-loved blog, and behind-the-scenes features unaired on the show. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, or download us on Spotify. We want to deliver you more great audio and video content, and your support is greatly appreciated. If you would like to become a patron for In the Trees to show even more love and support, you can click the Donate tab on our website, which is linked to PayPal and Venmo, or you can look us up on Patreon under In the Trees Podcast and feel free to donate to the show. In the Trees Podcast is a labor of love, and our team is committed to providing you a quality show. We are so grateful for your show donations and Patreon support. They allow us to continue providing fun and educational podcast episodes like the one you just listened to, and maybe get some better mics and equipment for the studio. Apart from having access to a ton of behind-the-scenes audio and video, including raw cuts of myself and guests talking about things your kids might need earmuffs for, Patreon supporters also get the opportunity to score a pack of cannabis seeds from intentional crosses that I made in one of my own gardens, which are for tossing in your smoothie or feeding to your cockatiel.